Well, good morning from California, and welcome to the Wisdom of the Soul class. I'm Michael Benner, but I bet you knew that. This is class number 30, and we're going to follow up on the topics from the last couple of classes today. 2 weeks ago, we did a class on karma, and I think I called it Karma: It's All Good. And everything is karma. I think that was the main point of the class a couple of weeks ago, that so many people tend to think of karma as good things or bad things that happen against a background of random events. But nothing's random. We live in a universe of cause and effect, and everything is karmic. Whether your toast fell butter side up or butter side down, or whether it fell at all. Every little thing that happens is karmic. It's like gravity is always in effect, not only when you fall down and skin your knee, but when you're walking along or running or sleeping in your bed. Gravity is consistent. It's always there. And then last week we talked about the middle way, and I'd like to pick up with that, and then today extend into a much closer look at this whole idea of the secret, or the law of attraction. I have some pretty strong feelings about this that I'm looking forward to sharing with you today. It's a concept that is real and true and has always been understood since the beginning of time, that energy follows thought. That's the way we've spoken of this in this particular class since we began last February. Energy follows thought. And we've also discussed the idea that karma is not merely a consequence or a reflection of our action, our behavior, our speech. In fact, it's even more than a consequence of our thoughts and feelings, but the intention behind it all. So if your intention is good, but you fail at something, someone misunderstands you, you insult someone without knowing it, you pushed their button, or you triggered them in some way, and gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Why are you so angry at me? Why are you so upset? That certainly was not my intention. Intention is everything. So to be aware of our intentions is a major step in expanding awareness and becoming more self-aware. So today we're going to take both of those lessons, karma and the middle way. After our opening meditation here, I'll pick up where we left off on the middle way, give you a couple examples. It's primarily a Buddhist concept, and so the middle way, that is, karma is an Eastern philosophy that transcends all the religions. It's more cultural than a religious in the East, but it's become a popular belief system in the West as well in the last 60 or 80 years. So I think everyone here is familiar with the concept. And then we'll talk about the secret. And if the secret, like karma and the middle way, are spiritual laws, and we use the secret or the law of attraction to attract material goods that benefit only ourselves, does that mean we are misusing a spiritual law? And I would argue, yes, in certain situations, provisionally. So we'll, no surprise, take the middle way. With an understanding of karma, we'll take the middle way through the whole idea of the secret, the which is really not secret, the law of attraction. Maybe we could say today we'll talk about the secret behind the secret. How about that? Let's begin with our opening focus, meditation for a few minutes. So if you get comfortable and sit up straight in your chairs, remember the whole idea is to be erect, but not rigid. And so sit up, shoulders back, maybe lift your chin just a little bit. Get a sense of being balanced and centered. With your head above your shoulders, spine vertical, top of your legs horizontal, feet flat on the floor unless you're cross-legged. Close your eyes and feel supported by the chair or the furniture. And feel grounded. Use your imagination and perhaps as well your mind's eye to imagine yourself being connected to the ground. Even if the floor is carpeted or tiled, imagine that you have roots, like lines of force that reach down through the carpeting, through the flooring. Maybe if you're on the second or third floor of a building, all the way down, all the way down into the earth. So as to imagine how a tree must feel to be so safely and securely rooted into the ground. And in so doing, consider that this is your spot. This is where you grow. And that you are plugged in and connected to the ground of all things. And that you belong here. Take 2 or 3 nice, slow, deep breaths, inhaling through the nose, strength and power, hold as you peak. And as you exhale slowly through the nose or the mouth, go all the way beyond where you normally stop. Pause and cycle again with an in-breath. And as you exhale, feel a letting go throughout your body. Like a sigh of relief. And do that a couple of more times, pulling in strength and power as you slowly inhale. And feel the letting go as you exhale. All the way out. And after 4 of those, allow yourself to breathe normally. Let your body breathe itself. And scan your body. With your awareness, slowly sweep from your head down to the soles of your feet, creating and sensing even more letting go, more relaxation. And then sweeping slowly back again, looking for any residual tension or discomfort, and let it go. Release your concerns and your worries and your doubts. They'll come back later. You won't lose them. Not if they're of consequence. It's okay to forget. And to be in the present moment, where you must admit you feel very safe. Safe enough to close your eyes. Safe enough to allow me to guide you in a simple narrative. Safe enough to accept or release any idea that comes into your head. Safe enough to be at choice. So if I were to, as the narrator, say something that you wish to embrace, you can do that. Receive it and embrace it and affirm it. So too, if a thought passing through your mind is positive, you welcome it in. You affirm it and confirm it because you're safe enough. And the mind is becoming more and more quiet. And it's easier to choose what to embrace and what to release. And if I were to say something that did not fit or did not resonate with you, you could drop it. And so too, if some random thought bubbling up from the unconscious mind, some fearful or negative notion passes through your mind, in the same way, you're safe enough to say to yourself silently, that's not true. That's not a part of my life. And you let it go. There's no struggle. You just refuse to adopt it, to pick it up or carry it. And in normal consciousness, where we're often so stressed and so worried, and our minds, our thoughts are racing, we're not always aware that we have that choice, that we can embrace and affirm the positive and release the negative. Sometimes negative thoughts have value. Sometimes a negative thought will come along or a negative feeling. And it benefits us by bringing our awareness to something that indeed needs our attention. And that thought or that feeling felt negative, but it was actually a beneficial alert or signal. So learn what it has to offer, be grateful, and then let it go. You see, any of the attendant negativity or irritable feelings that came along with it, any tendency to admonish yourself or scold yourself or beat yourself up for not knowing that or not being better somehow. All of that stuff, let that go. You don't need that. The primary benefit of meditation is to be at choice. And having scanned the bodies 3 or 4 times with your awareness, letting go of the last of any residual tension, irritation, or discomfort. Place your awareness on the bottom of your nose. Find your spot, wherever that happens to be. Just inside the rim of your nostrils, perhaps, or on that septum between the nostrils, or perhaps the tip of your nose. Some people prefer the abdomen as a place to watch their body breathing itself. Whatever is most comfortable for you, let your attention settle in that fixed point. And for the next few minutes, simply watch your body breathing itself. Let's say 3 minutes of simply watching the in-breath and the out-breath. Notice the period, the frequency. Notice whether the out-breath is a little warmer than the in-breath. Be curious and notice everything about your breath without judging any of it as good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. Nothing to judge. And identify as the watcher rather than the breather. Until you hear my voice again. Silently and internally, say to yourself, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. And repeat that a couple of times. Every day, in every way. I am getting better and better and better. Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. And allow yourself to feel positive. Allow yourself to experience happiness for no reason whatsoever. As if to be carefree and safe and happy is your natural, normal state of being. And there's nothing to carry. For wherever you go, that peace will be there. That peace and that love, that joy and happiness is everywhere equally present. And when and if there are times in our daily lives that seems not to be the case, consider that, like the weather, even when the sky is cloudy and dark and it rains, or there's thunder and lightning or snow and sleet, beyond that and above that, it's still a sunny day. On our worst days, the peace and the joy and the wisdom that we so often seek, as if it were some sort of journey or struggle to attain, is waiting inside you for you to work through whatever it is that you've picked up and carried, though it feels like it's holding on to you. We are holding on to our negativity and our fears and our doubt and our worry and our pain. We carry that stuff, so all you have to do is put it down. There's nothing to attain. Just let it go. And let the sun shine. Even at midnight, the sun is shining. Tell yourself you're healthy, you're strong, and you're smart. You're loving and compassionate and wise. Your body knows what it's doing. On some profound level, the mind knows exactly what it's up to. And it's your heart that holds the wisdom and the truth. Follow the heart. The heart always knows what to do, how to do it, and perhaps most importantly, who you are. Reject the false belief system that we are whatever others must be thinking of us. And then release the idea that you are what you think of yourself. And consider that, in fact, you are what you care about. You are what you love. You are that you are capable of loving. You are that love. That's who and what and why you are. All rolled into one. Who and what and why you are is revealed by what you care about, and that you care. Imagine that you do care. Find yourself there and give your thinking mind a rest. Thinking is not necessary to living. Loving is the essence and the truth. And reveals the wisdom that all is one. That's what love is. It's the acknowledgement that there's only one of us here. And like waves on the ocean or raindrops, we may appear to be separate from time to time. But the truth is we are the ocean. Bring this wisdom, these feelings, this insight and understanding with you gently. Again, it's nothing you need to carry or pack and bring along. Know that it is everywhere equally present. And so form the intention to move toward the wide awake state simply by intending to count yourself out from 1 to 3. 1 is forming the intention. 2 is drifting upward gently toward a waking state, just like waking up from sleep. And 3, eyes open, wide awake. Open your eyes now, wide awake, alert, back in the room. Take a nice, big, slow, deep breath. And exhale, stretch a little bit. Back in the room, wide awake, feeling fine. Better than before. Good, good, good. Okay, so 2 weeks ago, karma. Last week, the middle way. This week, a closer look at what Esther Hicks called the secret. I've never been able to determine whether Esther Hicks believed her own propaganda or was just cynical enough to write a book that she knew would sell by appealing to false self-interest. When I say false self or false self-interest, I'm talking about the part of us that believes the appearance of separation. Me as opposed to you. Me as a separated object, just like everything else in the physical world, has the appearance of being a separated object. Now, if we sit through 8th grade or 9th grade science, and forgive me if I'm repetitive about this, it needs repeating. All of these physical objects are actually energy, all mass, all material, all physically dense stuff, as an appearance or an outpicturing, a reflection, if you will, of energy. Everything is energy. It's what a nuclear bomb proved. The enormous energy in a few grams of material, something atomically heavy like plutonium or uranium, which they then enrich, and it's just loaded with, 236 electrons or some such thing. And you bust that baby open, and just a few grains, a few grams of that material devastates the city. Not to mention the residual radiation, but the point is a remarkable amount of energy. I mean, Einstein didn't just say energy equals mass. That energy side of the equation is so enormous that we have to multiply the mass times the speed of light squared, which is a pretty big number. So mass, the density of material objects, multiplied by the speed of light squared, gives you a sense of how much energy is bound up in it. It's enormous. But the material world is not substantial. It's impermanent. It's always in flux, and it never lasts. Everything rises and exists for a time and then fades away. Everything erodes and rots and gets used up, and it's a hard lesson to learn. We get tricked and fooled into thinking, well, my mother, I remember I could hear my mother's voice as clear as a bell saying, Michael, if you take care of this, it'll last forever. Well, I love my mother, and I know she was well-intentioned, but she could not have been more wrong. Nothing material lasts forever. The substantial side of the equation is the energy side. It's energy that cannot be created nor destroyed, and we learned that in the 8th grade. Or the 9th grade, and then quickly forgot about it because it wasn't carried over from physics into metaphysics as it should have been, much less to quantum physics. If you're going to study one, you've got to study all three: metaphysics, as well as physics and quantum physics, because the same laws run like threads through all of it. These are immutable laws. So the physical is impermanent. The energy is permanent. What is energy? Well, there's physical energy, but there's also spiritual energy or non-physical energy, which is consciousness. And we describe that as awareness. Those words are effectively synonyms. Many people have attempted to distinguish one from the other, but many great teachers will conflate the two. And I'm not going to dwell on it now. We've touched on it in the past. We'll perhaps in the future talk about the distinctions, if there are any, between awareness and consciousness, or maybe better said, between capital A awareness and small a awareness. Capital C consciousness and small c consciousness. The problem with The Secret, as described by Esther Hicks in her book from, 2006, I think. And then there was a movie too, wasn't there? And a lot of those guys in that movie are still on the circuit. They're still going around doing seminars on how you have an Aladdin's lamp within you, and you can rub that lamp and the genie will come out and give you all the wishes that you could possibly imagine. The secret is if you put your attention on something, you affect it. You either create it and bring it into manifestation or redeem it, as in healing. And you know what? That's true. Because everything that exists is a reflection of consciousness. So of course, if you focus your attention with a clear intention behind it, don't you see, that's going to affect your reality, since the entirety of your reality is a reflection of your consciousness. Life is what you make it. Life is a dream. Life mirrors you, regardless of whether you focus on it or know the principles or not. Law is law. Gravity would be gravity even if you didn't understand it or know anything about it. There's that great quote from the 13th or 14th century. If I were a king and did not know it, I would not be a king. But if gravity existed and I didn't know it, there'd still be gravity. I mean, it's like before humans discovered the wheel, did the wheel exist? I guess that's arguable. Before electricity was discovered and Ben Franklin coaxed it out of the sky with a kite and a key, did electricity still exist? Before we induced it along a wire? Well, yeah, of course it did, and so did the wheel. It's just we weren't aware of it. So a lot of this is semantics and how you deal with the word. But the big problem I have with the way The Secret was peddled 16 years ago and continues to be presented, even by people who know better, as a way to enrich yourself or get what you want, is that it reinforces the idea that you exist as a separate being, that you are an object and the thing that you want is a separate object and you don't have it. So if you put your attention on it, you can magnetize it, you can attract it. I mean, love is attractive. Consciousness is magnetic, isn't it? And like attracts like. That's a spiritual law. Notice, by the way, the polarities of that are reversed in the physical world. Because, again, the physical world is a reflection of consciousness. So you look at your t-shirt in the mirror and it looks backwards, right? So in that way, or hold a newspaper or a sign up to a mirror, it's backwards. So in that way, the spiritual law of like attracting like is reversed in physical dance, where opposites attract in electricity and electromagnetism. If you've ever played with magnets, opposites attract, opposite poles attract, and like poles repel. But in the spiritual dimension, like attracts like. So this is a real principle, and this is true, and this law can be used or applied, but not for material gain, and particularly not for the separate self. And I want to say that conditionally. There's certain conditions here. And that's why I want to go back to not only karma, but the middle way. We talk a little about the middle way, picking up where we left off in last week's class, and then we'll apply it to what I'm talking about here, about the misuse of the secret. There's a great story in the Buddhist sutras, and I've heard it in several different forms, but I'll tell you the story as I first read about it. And it's that Buddha is sitting under the Bodhi tree, seeking enlightenment. And this is a man who was born a prince. And encountered suffering as sickness, aging, and death, and was horrified. Because even though he was a young man at the time, he had never seen any of those. He had never seen sickness, he had never seen aging, and he had never seen death. His father and mother, the king and the queen, had protected him from such things. So he got it in his head that he was going to figure out a way to avoid suffering. Well, all the riches in the world did not protect him from suffering. And so he ran away. He had a wife and a son who he abandoned. While they slept, he couldn't find the courage, as the story goes, to tell them that he was leaving. And so he bails in the middle of the night as a young man and runs away. Leaves the kingdom, the royalty, the riches, all of that behind, and goes into the woods, into the jungles, and becomes an ascetic, a monk. And he practices the religion of a lot of these monks, what you might call Hinduism today, maybe more accurately Brahmanism in its various forms, or even then, 2,500 years ago, many schools. None of it was really resonating for him, didn't work. But he tried various yoga practices, sleeping on a bed of nails, standing on one foot all day long, attempting to subsist on 1 grain of rice per day, until he became emaciated. You could see his bones, his rib cage through his body, and his arms and legs. He looked like a skeleton with just a little flesh hanging on his bones. And still he suffered. And so he had tried both extremes. Poverty did not help him escape suffering, a complete rejection of the material world, embracing the material world with great riches and titles and unlimited opportunity and abundant resources. That did not help him escape suffering. So he's seeking enlightenment by meditating under the Bodhi tree, as the story goes. And a boat floats by with a musician, a lute player, guitar player, and his teacher in the boat. And as it floats by, the teacher says to the student, "You must tighten the string. Just so. For if the string is too tight, it will break. And if it's too loose, it will make no sound at all." And as the story goes, this blew off the top of, blew his mind, so to speak. And he discovered the middle way, which we talked about in last week's class. The avoidance of extremes. And the middle way is such a rich allegory in so many applications. In the Christian Trinity, for example, the middle way is Christ saying, "I am the way." That love is the way, the love between Father Spirit, or the will of the divine, and Mother Matter, so-called Holy Spirit, is the mother, mater, material, matter, madre. And they have a son, an offspring, who comes third but stands as number 2. The middle way is love between will and behavior. The lower correspondence in man, similarly, is the emotional nature between the mind and the physical body. That the mind manifests behavior and health through the magnetic force of love, or consciousness, in the middle. That's the middle way. So the Christ nature, the Christos, the consciousness, on the higher Trinity, the divine Trinity so-called, or the emotional nature, happiness and joy and all of our emotions, the positive and the negative. The negative, of course, have value. We've talked about that enough in the past, I'm sure. These are references to the middle way, but It manifests in life in so many different ways. Just avoid the extremes. And so when we talk about the law of attraction and the so-called secret, I'm suggesting we avoid the extremes here too. The extreme is that I can use this magical law of attraction, that I can go online and attend some seminar or read any one of 117 books on the law of attraction. I can do my treasure mapping. I can do my affirmations. I can do my visualization and guided imagery. And all I have to do is believe and have faith, and I will reap what I sow. Those thoughts, the intention, the consciousness behind it will manifest. Yes, and it's true. But if you do it only for material goods, what have you gained? And if you do it only for the separate self without regard to your impact on others, what is spiritual about this law, the application of this law? So I guess what I'm asking rhetorically here is, when is the secret white magic and when is it black magic? And is there gray magic in between? What is the difference between white magic and black magic? Well, I would argue this, and again, this is just me as a teacher offering you teaching aids and metaphors. This is not carved in granite. I'm not speaking authoritatively here. Black magic is using the law of attraction to deliberately hurt somebody, to target them, to wish them. This is all witchcraft is portrayed as black magic. And the witches and the brooms and the mirrors and the cauldrons and the curses and all of that, most of that is not from the folk beliefs of real witches. That's Christian dogma and doctrine that makes everything that is not what the church says evil. Right? And the more fundamentalist and the more orthodox the Christian church is, and the more likely it is to portray everything else as evil. Whether it's Judaism, which Christianity comes out of, Christianity really is a type of Judaism, isn't it? But you don't have to struggle to find some right-wing preacher today who will tell you that, I don't know who the Antichrist is, but I know he'll be Jewish. It's a horrible thing to say. I mean, it's just the anti-Semitism of 2,000 years still being what's the word I want? Argued, put out there, proposed, often in a political context in this day and age. Because the extreme right fundamentalists, whether they're Islamic or Jewish or Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or anybody else, the more orthodox and rigid you get, the more exclusive you tend to become. And so my way's right and everybody else who disagrees is wrong. And to make sure that we get the message out about how wrong you are, we'll make you evil, because there's only two ways anything can be. You're either with us or against us. So wicked, the very word wicked comes from Wiccan, as if all witchcraft is evil. Well, most of it is healing. But, are there black witches or wicked witches? If we put aside the Disney stereotypes of what a witch is, we're coming up on Halloween. And recognize that there's good and bad in everything. Even the Wizard of Oz had good witches and bad witches, right? Glenda was a good witch. She told Dorothy she never left home. She's sleeping in her bed. You never left home. You were there all along. But there had to be this little foray. The wizard sent her out into the world to conquer her fear. And then she dealt with the evil witch, the wicked witch. So Our mythology is just full of this stuff. And so arguably, if you use the law of attraction or the secret to wish harm on someone in a vengeful way, that's black magic. And can you imagine the karma? Because what you put out in the world comes back on you. You reap what you sow. So wishing ill will on someone, or that they have an accident, or I want them to hurt. How about this one? What is vengeance? I want them to hurt the way I hurt. And because you hurt me, I'm not going to take ownership of my pain. You triggered it, and it's really my pain. But I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to blame you for triggering my hidden pain. And now I want to do something to make you suffer so that you know how it feels, in my case, to be a victim of my own unattended pain and suffering and delusions and false assumptions and erroneous thinking. I'll blame the stimulus. And now, to double down, I'm going to vengefully use these magical powers to wish you ill and bring badness and hurt and heartache into your life. I wish that for you, that you suffer. Man, that's black magic. That is just wicked. I should not use the word wicked. It's evil. And the karma, and why? Only because you will experience the karma. How ironic. But the gray magic I'm talking about, in between white magic or using the law of attraction, the magnetic nature of consciousness for your own benefit, knowing you're part of the one life. If that's white magic, then between that and the black magic I just described must be a whole range of, I want only good things, but I want them for me. And I'm not really interested in the impact it has on you. Right? And this is the middle way. This is where we have to find the balance between wanting something for me and using spiritual laws of attraction. Oh, hell, positive thinking. Or, again, Christ saying, you reap what you sow. So what kind of seeds are you going to plant? If thoughts are the seeds and your belief system is the water and the sun and the nutrients and the soil, the mind is the seedling, though, then we have to find a way to aspire rather than desire good things for ourselves, but consider that the self as a separate being is an illusion. And so, in order to work most effectively and avoid the difficult consequences of karma, I'll say it that way, the negative consequences of karma, I don't want to call it bad karma, but you could. We have to make our list, dream our dreams, with the consideration that this be for the greater good of all concerned. If you use that admonition for the greater good of all concerned, provided this is for the greater good, then you're always safe, you see. So whether you're using the law of attraction as described in The Secret by Esther Hicks, or some other metaphysical book, fine. And you can put down on your list everything that you want. The solutions, the results, the goals, your desired outcomes, think positively, come from gratitude, act like you've already got it, like it's a done deal, giving no thought as to how you're going to get to that goal. These principles work. I'm simply suggesting that you add to that a little provision, proviso, which would sound something like, provided this is for the greatest good of all, so that you don't separate yourself and use spiritual laws for material gain. Christ said, store your riches in heaven and not on earth. What does that mean? Well, simply said, you can't take it with you. So why do the vast majority of our friends and neighbors, and each of us knows the temptation as well, to orient our lives toward the acquisition of material stuff when it's all in decay? And I understand the serotonin, endorphin, neurotransmitter hit that we get from acquisition. I mean, even an Amazon package at the door is sort of, oh boy, what did I get? I forgot what I ordered. It's Christmas. There's an Amazon package. Rip it open. How much fun. The brain just loves this stuff. And the big ticket items, you know, a house, a car, a relationship. That's all well and good. But where are you going with it, really, as you get older and older, and you got to repair and replace all of this stuff? It's like you spend the first 2/3 of your life acquiring it, and the last third of your life dragging it to the curb for the dumpster people to carry it away. What's the point? You have to ask yourself, I think, what's the point? When is enough enough? How do I find the balance in a material world where I have enough? I have shelter from the storm. I have transportation. I can get around. I have food in the pantry. I can pay my bills. What's the point of acquiring more? Do you need millions of dollars? And if we look at the billionaires who've got so much at the expense of hunger and malnutrition and starvation and homelessness, those two are connected quite clearly. Why is there so much hunger and so much homelessness? Where did all the money go? These billionaires never seem to be satisfied. They're always looking for a way to get more. Why? Because they're addicted to this treadmill existence of the dopamine hit, that rush, that search for power, but it's false power. It's the power of the material world, of dominance and submission, power over, the power to exploit, the power to kill, to rape, to plunder. And that desire is never fulfilled. I think you've noticed. Even in our meager lives, the desire is never fulfilled. Every time you get what you want, using the secret or not, doesn't take long before that desire nature starts looking around for something else. Right? We never get satisfied. The desire nature is never satisfied. So why use a spiritual law to attempt to satisfy this false desire nature that's never satisfied? You're just going to torment yourself. And it distresses me to see people who hold themselves out as spiritual teachers encouraging people to use spiritual laws for material gain when you're not going to gain anything. You're just going to suffer even more. So the middle way in this case Like being a king and wealthy didn't do it, didn't help Buddha escape suffering. Being impoverished and refusing to eat and have any money at all didn't help him escape suffering. It was the middle way. The lute player, the string too tight breaks, too loose, doesn't make a sound at all. The middle way here is to have enough and let it be. To use your affirmations, your positive thinking, the imperative nature of goal setting. If you don't know what you want, any road will take you there, right? It's important to set goals. Just don't hold too tightly on to the outcome. You may get what you want. You may also get what you need. And so when you get what you want, you might not even recognize it right away. This is not what I wanted. No, well, maybe it is what you wanted, plus what you needed. Like, I didn't ask for this. Well, you got it, so work through it. See what you can learn. It's a balance, isn't it? You see? That's the lesson today. If we can take our understanding of karma, the consequences of our behavior, and this principle of the middle way, avoiding extremes and finding a balance at all times between the extremes. And then this whole idea of manifestation and when is enough enough? What is appropriate? What is balanced? How do I live a balanced life in the material world where I have a nice car and I have a healthy relationship with my spouse or partner, with my kids, with my parents, with my neighbors, with my coworkers, and the material stuff that we want? Is it about function or form? And even then, the middle way. Like, do you want a living room furniture that is impressive and looks nice and says to your friends, these folks must have a lot of money? Or do you just want something that is comfortable? But still, a balance. What if what you have is comfortable, but it looks like hell, and you're ashamed to have anybody over because your furniture is so ratty and moth-eaten and pet-stained, and there's a balance, don't you see? Yeah, I want some nice stuff, but for the sake of just having expensive-looking things, or what's its primary function? What's its real function? So I know there's a lot here. I know it's easy to be overwhelmed by all of this, but if you just take little bite-sized pieces and chew on it, and then hold this in your mind and in your heart in such a way that it's likely to come up again and again every time you set a goal, every time you wish you had a new car or new furniture or a better house or a better job or a better relationship with somebody who was nicer and understood me better and we didn't argue all the time. And the biggest trap is the idea that I want it. It's for me. And it elevates, inventing words. It elevates this sense of self above all other things. It's what I want. But there is no I. So not only will material excess fail to bring you the promise of great riches and fortune, it reinforces the illusion that you're separate, that you're alone. There is such a thing as a self. And that's just an illusion. There are, in our minds, streams of thoughts. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 streams of thoughts. that we perceive as me thinking. But if there was a singular self, then why do these thoughts that each one of us experiences so often conflict and argue with each other? Why is there so much ambivalence in your mind and in your heart if you're unitive and singular? I don't know about you, but I'll admit it. There's at times real contradiction and chaos in my brain. I want this. No, I don't. You don't want this. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Wait, what? Which one is me? And then there's a third thought, and a fourth, and a fifth. And which one is me? How do I stand above all of that and get a unified view? Only by identifying as the one thing, the one life, the unitive nature of a universe. Like the wave, I rose up out of the ocean and will live for a time and then exhaust myself and collapse on the beach. But I'm still the ocean. I always was the raindrop, the cloud, still has an ocean body. Whether we incarnate once or transmigrate and reincarnate over and over again. What is it that's reincarnating? There's just one thing at work. And these are my concerns, which I want to share with you today about the relationship of karma, the consequences of our intentions, thoughts, feelings, and behavior, including speech, this middle way philosophy, and the misunderstanding of the law of attraction. Make all of your goals, all of your desired outcomes and results for the greater good of all. And there'll be so much more harmony in your life. It'll be so much smoother and more elegant, right? Stay the middle way. It's about 8 minutes after the top of the hour. Melinda, do we have any comments or questions in the chat box? Any hands raised? I'm not hearing you, Mindy. Are you there? Huh. Where'd Melinda go? Oh, here she's trying to get in. Let me let her in. There you go. We lost you for a minute. There you go. Did you fall off?
You know, my laptop screen closed and then it makes it all go away and you can't get it back.
Oh, well, welcome back.
I'm back. Thank you. It's a bad feeling, but I was trying to maintain some calm.
That's the deal.
So
Notice how angry I am at you.
Oh, come on. I don't see any questions. I guess that's where you are.
How about from you? I presume you were with us for most of that.
Yes, I just got lost a couple minutes ago. That was really a great summation of the paradox in manifesting what we quote want, but not knowing what we want because it all feeds the desire nature. It's all, to me, it's always been such a conflict, especially having a dad who was a Christian Scientist who would tell me that all my illnesses were a manifestation of my mental state, and it was a very harsh judgment. So there is so much. I thought you really summed it up well with the conflict in the idealistic nature of doing for the common good, the altruistic loving. There is no self. But that I and one more thing I wanted to add, so you can comment on, is I was the most unhappy, the most troubled, sought the most escape from life when I was making the most money.
Uh,
Personally, it's nice to have the house and the car and the food. It's nice. That's the middle way. And I really appreciate these few lectures on the middle way, because that can be pretty, the absolutes can be pretty clear, but that middle way, boy, can be a tough one.
well, living in the material world, that's what's so difficult about it, because um, while this is a world of suffering, um, again, the Buddhist talks about suffering on a number of levels, at least 7 different types of suffering. Um, there is illness, which includes injury, sickness, aging, um, birth and rebirth. There's a lot of suffering
Because emotional suffering, anxiety is a form too. Emotional suffering comes in there. I think one of them.
yeah, and they talk about that, the suffering of having to face what you would rather not have to face, having to deal with the problems and anxieties of life, losing what you like to have. You know, the suffering of, oh, I don't know, you buy a brand new car and some moron pushes a shopping cart into the side, or somebody's not paying attention and they rear end you and wreck your nice new car. And even if you get it fixed, it's never quite the same. You know, it's just not the car you wanted it to be. And so it is with everything. You buy something new and you want it to last forever, and it never does, and it inevitably leads to suffering. And then the 7th, I think I've lost track. I think this is the 7th form of suffering, is recognizing that your desire nature is never going to be fulfilled. And most people never really get to that place. They just keep, running the rat race on the treadmill or the hamster cage, never really catching on to the fact that as soon as we experience a sense of fulfillment or attainment, it's pretty quickly taken away. Desire is a lot like fear, in that most of us think fear is a result or a consequence or an effect of a dangerous or uncomfortable situation. In fact, fear is a pre-existing mindset that, once alleviated, goes looking for something else to justify its existence. And desire does the same thing. As soon as it's fulfilled, it doesn't lay down and go to sleep. It doesn't go away. It's never satisfied. It's never fulfilled. It just launches itself in a different direction. Now I desire this. Well, struggle, struggle, struggle. Yay, I got it. I'm happy for a day. And then desire goes looking for something else. And most of us get old and die and never really catch on to the to the game that we're being led around by, like a ring in our nose. It's like hanging the carrot in front of the mule, and the mule keeps walking to try to get to the carrot, pulling your burden behind it, dragging this wagon wherever it goes, just to get to the carrot. And the mule just doesn't seem to have the awareness to understand it's never going to get the carrot. I don't know if anybody ever did that. It's a curious story, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about, right? I guess it was a cartoon where I first saw that idea of a stick with a carrot hanging off it in front of the mule to make the mule go. So I forgot the question that I was answering, or the comment I was responding to. But all of these different forms of suffering are something that we can experience it at arm's length. We can watch it happen, but be hip to the trick and find a balanced way through it all, right? Like, there are material concerns. At least once a month, sometimes twice a month, you've got to sit down and pay your bills. You got to pay your rent, you got to pay your mortgage, you got a car payment most likely, have utilities to pay, and you got to buy groceries, and then the unexpected things come up. You need an income to do that. You're living in the material world. There's got to be some desire nature there to have at least enough. And often it appears to be a struggle. But the idea that if we had great wealth, that we'd be happy is absurd. Great wealth gives you certain freedom, but it also brings with it a lot of burdens, like maintain. I personally know a couple very wealthy people whose primary source of anxiety is holding on to that wealth. You know, it's like they're being punished by not having a middle way attitude, a balanced attitude about when is enough enough. So if we talk about this in a context like this, then maybe we can get hip to the trick and avoid it and say, yeah, what's that? Again, going back to Christ, who said, store your riches in heaven and not on earth, where thieves do not break through in the night and moth does not, what is it, moth and rust doth not corrupt, or some such thing. There's another admonition about living in the world but not of it. And that's the middle way. You're here, and you appear to be a separate self, and there are very real needs that need to be attended to. But don't get carried away. You need to live in the world, but you're not of this world. This is a play. This is a psychodrama. This is an opportunity for you to become self-realized and a more effective agent for change. That's who and what we are. We're here to redeem fear and ignorance into love and understanding. We're here to respond to negativity with something positive and hopeful. That's our job, to bring light into the darkness and goodness into the evil. That's all. That's it. And we do that for the greater good of all concerned. As long as we use that proviso for the greater good of all, or maybe others have different ways of saying it, but that same attitude, then we're going to be walking a balanced path, no matter what life throws at us. So I'd love to take a question or a comment from someone before we wrap it up here. Anybody? Risking? The funny thing is, when I sign off, everybody wants to talk.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Right. For my sake, anybody has a chat question, I will stop talking. My son is 33, married with two small kids, and they live in a 1,800 square foot house. It by my standards of what I grew up in, it's a mansion. But of course, he is fixated on either building a new house or adding on. And he has a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I find myself wanting to impart the lessons I learned from fixing up, selling, fixing up, handing someone the remodel, and then finally saying, when at 70 years old, okay, Melinda, you're stopping now. But that it seems like there's no way to awaken the realization you were talking about besides hitting my head against the wall 50 times, and then the light starts to seep in that and the only thing that really woke me up was ill health. I'll tell you, which you would think would be the worst thing, but it actually was a big blessing. And I guess that part of it's so hard to see what you just talked about because it seems anathema to daily life. to give up the quest and to realize that we have such an abundance, even if we don't have much. Our riches are inside.
I was watching a documentary not long ago. Uh, uh, a British couple was doing this documentary where they were on a walking journey through the East, going to various ashrams and seminaries and seeking out holy men and women to ask them these great profound questions. What is reality? What is life? What is happiness? And what I retained from this documentary that I found most enjoyable was they found this old guy, this venerable monk, lived his entire life as a monk, meditating, contemplating, and I mean it was like drum roll, trumpet fanfare. Cameras are rolling. They've come halfway around the world. They finally meet this guru of gurus, this teacher of teachers, and they say, so what is the meaning of life? And this guy doesn't even hesitate, this guru of gurus, this grand teacher. And he was 90 if he was a day, right? And yet his eyes twinkled. Even the camera picked it up. And he just grinned, and without hesitation, he said, to live it. Period. Full stop. The meaning of life is to live it. Well, that knocks you back a little bit. What does it mean to live it? The whole point of this is to have the experience of this and to become more skilled and more accomplished at dealing with the travails of everyday existence. Not to gather up as much stuff as possible or create this big inheritance for your children or to corner the market on this or gain leverage and power and dominance of the material world. It's so meaningless and without purpose. It's just so ridiculous. Especially if as you die, as you exit this whole thing, you're miserable. It's sort of curious to watch old people. Maybe there's some sort of migration toward the polarities of things as you get older. It seems to me, anyway, that the older you are, the more likely you are to fall only in one of two categories. I know this is very binary and very unlike me, but I see very, very unhappy old people. They're often bent over as if carrying a burden all of their lives. What is this bent over thing about? But that life has been a burden on them. Their backs are breaking and malformed from the burden they've carried. And then the people that couldn't be happier, and they're well adjusted and they have their modest little home and their modest little retirement income and are perfectly happy. And I'm trying to think of the guy that did the movies. There was a documentary about this fellow too. He did some Jim Carrey movies, and that's all I remember about him. He was a multi-millionaire. And he had this huge mansion in Pasadena. And besides making movies, very successful movies in Hollywood, his real love in life was riding a bicycle. That's that's what he did with his spare time. But he made a documentary, as sort of a memoir or autobiography documentary about himself, in which he explained why he gave all of that up. Here he's got all this money in the bank, this huge stock portfolio, Wall Street, drowning in wealth, living this huge mansion, 40 rooms, 15 bathrooms, I don't know, 3 kitchens, and the sprawling estate in Pasadena. He said, I was miserable. I was just, just. And then I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? And I realized I was just copying other rich people and those who were aspiring to be rich people. So if a little bit of material stuff is good, then more must be better. And then even more must be even better. And it's not true. Often less is more. And so he sold the mansion and downsized and is much happier living in a little 2 or 3 bedroom house and driving a regular car instead of an expensive sports car that he always has to worry about. And boy, if we could just shortcut that and avoid having to learn the hard way. Imagine spending your whole life in the pursuit of material success only to find out it's meaningless and that you wasted your whole life when you could have been balanced and said, yeah, I want shelter. I have a right to have a roof over my head and not be worried every 30 days about whether I can pay for it. I'd like a car that starts when I push the button. I'd like health. I'd like friends. I'd like an abundance of free time. I'd like to be happy for no reason. I got to get off the money train to do that. So here's the middle way in the law of attraction. It's so absurd to me, it's just madness to take a spiritual law. You reap what you sow, you go where you look, you get what you expect, karma, and the law of attraction, that consciousness is magnetic, you reap what you sow, and use it for the stuff that's not real. And that doesn't make you happy more than a day or two. And brings with it all these other problems. And I think most people have a sense of this, but they're not sure what to do with it. Because the media, television and radio are not going to tell you this. An advertiser is not going to tell you, oh, it's okay, enough is enough. It's never enough with an advertiser. That's what Wall Street's about. It's terrifying you with every ad is a... I mean, trust me, I did enough radio and I wrote enough copy and I read enough ads. It's all about using fear to upset you. You only think you're happy. You're not happy. You need this deodorant. You need this toothpaste. You need this car. You need this. You need this. You need this. No, I don't. Well, you want it, don't you? Let's not ask yourselves why. And politicians, same thing. Fear. Most of what passes as religion is using fear. You don't have enough. You're bad. You're a sinner. You're wrong. You're no good. What if that's not true? What if you're just fine? But you have to know it and acknowledge it and appreciate it. Just like the value of a gratitude journal. The ultimate anti-capitalist weapon, gratitude for what you already have. Right? You want to strike a blow against conspicuous consumption? Be grateful.
That's right.
That's all you have to do. Honor what you already have. All right. So, again, to repeat, I think these last 3 classes tie together. And karma, the middle way, and the law of attraction. And I'd like to tell you where we're going to go, but each week I sort of wait for the class to be over, and then during the week mull over in my mind where I want to go. And that's how karma led me to the middle way, and the middle way led me to this closer look of the secret as the law of attraction. And we'll see where we go from here. If you have a suggestion for me about a topic you'd like me to cover, we're still pretty much going through the basics here. But email me. Let me know. The best email for this class is awmysteryschool@gmail.com. This is the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. The class is Wisdom of the Soul. But you'll find us, if you search podcasts or YouTube, as Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. And we are on YouTube as a video and podcast as an edited audio. Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. And if you want to email me, just awmysteryschool@gmail.com. I read all my mail. I look forward to hearing from you and will answer you personally. I also want to mention, and I'll talk about this a couple of more times in the future, I do get hard mail, postal mail, snail mail from some of you. And I appreciate it. I enjoy reading your letters. Some people have even made donations through snail mail. My P.O. box is going to go away in a few months. It's getting ridiculously costly. I don't know why, but my P.O. box costs way more than any place else in town, and it's just ridiculous. And yet I don't really want to publicize my home address. So email is really the best way to get a hold of me. Again, awmysteryschool@gmail.com. And if you feel inclined to make a donation to this free and always free seminar, just go to my website, michaelbenner.com, and click on free Zoom class. And you'll see a button where you can donate. And that'll help us defray internet expenses. I appreciate that. But the class is free and always will be free. Yet we appreciate the donations. And I just want to mention that, probably 2 or 3 months from now, I'm not sure the exact date, that I'm going to let go of that snail mail P.O. box. And so I don't want you to send something to the dead letter office or wonder why I never got back to you. And I think that's as much as I have in terms of old business for you today. So let me simply thank you for being here. I would like you to unmute, or Mindy, if you would mass unmute everybody, however that works. And then say goodbye, Salam, Aloha, Salam, Namaste to your fellow students here online. Thank you very much for being here. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. See you next week and have a beautiful week.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Bye. Thank you.